Matthew, and today I have a very important update as Hurricane Ian prepares to hit the west coast of Florida. The latest National Hurricane Center advisory, which as of this video's recording is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shows that the storm has just made it north of Cuba, which it impacted overnight. It currently has strengthened to a Category 3 hurricane with sustained winds of 120 miles an hour. As of that advisory, it was moving north at about 10 miles per hour. The latest update to the cone of uncertainty has it moving mostly the same as to what we've seen since yesterday afternoon, if not just a little bit further south in terms of the cone's center, which is now around the southern Tampa Bay area, with a northern end around the Big Bend and a southern end of that cone around Fort Myers. However, it is very important to keep in mind that this means the hurricane could make landfall anywhere within that area, and that impacts will be seen outside of it. If we check on the models, we can see that the GFS model is currently predicting a landfall around Northport or so. The European model is in agreement that the storm will be a direct hit to the Gulf Coast, although it expects a landfall more around the Tampa Bay itself. It is worth noting that both of these models have changed, especially in regards to landfall locations. They are not gospel, and once again, even if it looks increasingly likely that Tampa could be a landfall location or somewhere slightly further south, anywhere between the Big Bend, Tampa, and Northport could see a landfall. As for the stalling out we see on Thursday, I believe this is because of a cold front coming in from the north, which could help to weaken the storm after landfall, although not before. In terms of intensity guidance, the storm is already a very strong Category 3 hurricane, although it has experienced some weakening while going over Cuba, with more strengthening expected as it impacts the very warm waters of the southern Gulf of Mexico. It seems quite likely that the storm will become a Category 4 before landfall, and then begin to weaken thereafter. As of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, a hurricane warning has been issued for the Florida coast from Tarpon Springs down to around Cape Coral, as well as for the outermost islands of the Florida Keys. A hurricane watch is in effect from Levy County down to Tarpon Springs. A tropical storm warning has been issued from Levy County to Tarpon Springs, Bonita Springs down into the Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, and on the Atlantic coast from West Palm Beach up the Georgia coast. A storm surge warning is in effect from Levy County down to the Everglades and in the Jacksonville area, with a storm surge wash issued for pretty much the rest of the Gulf Coast into the Big Bend, the Florida Keys, and then up the Atlantic coast to Charleston, South Carolina. It is very important that we cover the expected storm surge of this storm, which is always the most dangerous and catastrophic part of any hurricane, especially on the west coast and in the Tampa Bay area. Although these are not exact values, you do get a general idea of how bad the storm surge is going to get. Most of Florida's west coast can expect storm surge between 2 to 5 feet, various different ranges depending on the area. However, around Charlotte Harbor, where the Hurricane Center is currently predicting a landfall as of right now, from Longboat Key, Sarasota, down to Bonita Beach, 8 to 12 feet of storm surge, 4 to 7 currently predicted in the Tampa Bay area. If you are in an area where you've been told to evacuate, this is why. Get out now. In terms of overall impacts, it really depends on which part of the state the storm ends up making landfall at, although this is currently predicted to be Tampa Bay or Northport, somewhere around central West Florida. Wherever it makes landfall, that area can expect to see winds up to 140 miles per hour with wind gusts even higher, and a storm surge between 8 and 12 feet, at worst maybe even higher than that. No matter where the storm makes landfall, the Florida Peninsula going into the next couple of days can expect very heavy rainfall and flash flooding, alongside a few isolated tornadoes, and tropical storm force winds, even hurricane force winds as the storm makes its way inland. While we cannot predict exactly where the storm will make landfall, and everyone on the west coast should be prepared, it is quite possible that we see a direct hit in the Tampa area, or even just to its south. It's Tuesday, impacts will begin across Florida tonight, going into tomorrow morning, and they will not stop here until Friday at the earliest. Today is the last day to make your preparations. By tomorrow it will be too late. If you have been told to evacuate, leave now. We are looking at a possible worst case scenario here in the Bay Area if it does go slightly further north and make that landfall in Tampa Bay. So please follow guidance from local authorities and keep up to date with advisories from the National Hurricane Center. This has been Matthew with Raptor Weather.